and today I will be talking to you about the basics of concussions. So it's a hot topic right now in sports medicine because so many, especially children, are getting concussions these days due to sports injuries, and this can be not good because they can lead to serious problems later in life, including Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease. So the definition of a concussion is a type of traumatic brain injury caused by a bump, blow, or jolt to the head, or by a hit to the body that causes the head and brain to move rapidly back and forth. This sudden movement can cause the brain to bounce around or twist in the skull, stretching and damaging the brain cells and creating chemical changes in the brain. So the first recognition is probably going to be by the athletic trainer. It's going to be on the field, and you're typically going to first establish whether or not there was a loss of consciousness. If there was, it's very important that you make sure that there's no neck injury, and that's the first thing you want to rule out. After that, you bring them off the field, and you make sure to ask, do you know where you are and what happened? Can you remember who we played last week? Walking off the field, does your head hurt, neck pain, and can you move your hands and feet just to have an initial assessment of loss of consciousness and amnesia and everything like that. Then you're going to observe the athlete. Typically for the rest of the game, you want to make sure you see if the athlete is disoriented or unable to tell you where they are, what time it is, what date it is, and who the opponent is. Is there any blank or vacant stare? Can the athlete keep their eyes open, focus attention? Is there slurred speech or incoherent speech, emotional responses, and changes in coordination? These are very important to make sure you keep track of. Like I said before, the athletic trainer is probably going to assess all of this right after they take them off the field to make sure that they're making the right call and that they shouldn't go back into the game. Because if they go back into the game, the risk for a second impact syndrome is a lot higher, and even a minimal blow can cause this syndrome, and it's very deadly. Then they're probably going to test after they make these observations. The first basic tests are just to feel if there's any tenderness or any deformities, basically feeling if they can feel anything that's wrong or if anything hurts. Then they're going to look at their eye function. Are the pupils equal, round, and do they react to light? Do they dilate when a light is shining in their eyes? Are they dilated abnormally? Do they look abnormal? Is eye tracking smooth or unstable? So probably going to bring a finger in front of them and have them track their finger. And is there blurred vision? Then they're going to test for balance, which can be either just standing there and if they move or not, or standing on one leg. And then coordination, so fingers out, touch their nose, stuff like that. Then if there's anything that seems off in any of these tests, they're going to do cognitive tests to see, make sure brain function is fine. So serial sevens, so counting in sevens, months in reverse order, counting backwards, and they're going to test their recent memory. So they can ask, who did we play last week? Do you remember the score? Did we win or not? What did you eat for breakfast? And then neuropsychological assessments are a little more serious. They're standardized to provide immediate objective data concerning presence and severity of neurocognitive impairment. So they're really going to be testing standardized, and I remember taking a test in high school even before we could do anything for swimming to make sure that we didn't have a concussion to start off with, and so that they had something to compare it to. Then, signs and symptoms. Typically, family members and friends are going to be asked to watch out for these. Athletic trainers will also be watching out for these, coaches, basically anyone who's around them and can tell any differences. So headache, like as common as headache and nausea, all the way to sleep disturbances, amnesia, ringing, buzzing, or other sounds in the ears. There's a whole lot of symptoms that they can have, and it's just going to depend on the severity of their concussion. So care, it's really important to make sure that all the symptoms are resolved before they return back to play because of the second impact syndrome. They have to be cleared by a physician before they can return back to play, just because it is so serious. After the initial concussion, the chances of a second episode are 3 to 6 times greater, and recurring concussions can produce cumulative traumatic injury to the brain, which it's very serious, like I said, especially for, you hear it a lot in football players and hockey players who get multiple concussions during their career, them ending up with Alzheimer's or Parkinson's disease later on in life. And they tend to get it early in life than someone who doesn't have all these concussions because of their concussions. So the impacts, like I've said, the risk of second impact syndrome, which it doesn't have to even be a hard blow. If they go back in too soon and they still have a concussion and they get hit again, or they even fall down and it jolts their brain, they have a very limited time for the athletic trainers to realize that it happened, or they can die. And it leads to problems later on in life. So this applies to you because whether you get a concussion or your child gets a concussion, it's very important to know the signs and symptoms and what to do about it, because it has such a great impact on life. So it's super important that you know what to look for. Are there any questions?